Thanks so much for joining me on the podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you, Jared?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to chat with you here today. So let's dive right in. If you don't mind, would love for you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself and then kind of build that up to Vectara. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's do it.
Yeah, so I'm a serial entrepreneur. Vectara is my third startup. My first startup was founded in 1999 and was acquired by Yahoo in 2000 and became part of Yahoo Shopping. It was a content shopping product that crawls the web for different product specs and images and so on. So that's my first startup. And then I spent 8 years at Yahoo. And then in 2008, I started my second company, which is Cloudera. And Cloudera was one of the very first big data companies in the world. And it went on to be a public company in the New York Stock Exchange. I was CTO for Cloudera. I was not CEO. And about 3 years ago now, I think, a private equity firm called KKR acquired Cloudera from the public markets. After Cloudera, I joined Google Cloud for 2 years. I was vice president of developer relations at Google Cloud. And while at Google, that's when I saw the power of this new generation of large language models. But I also saw the weakness, which is they sometimes make up stuff. It's called hallucination when they do that. And that made it very clear to me that if businesses are going to depend on this thing, somebody needs to solve that problem. And that became the genesis for Vectara. So Vectara, what we do is we provide AI agents and AI assistants that are three things. Accurate, so they don't hallucinate, they don't make up stuff. Secure, they don't leak information. You cannot trick them to tell you something you're not supposed to know. And explainable, they explain how they come up with their conclusions or their recommendations. And that's a requirement for regulated industries like finance, health, government, manufacturing. But in general, if you cannot explain, if the AI cannot explain how it came up with its recommendations, then you won't be able to fix it. You won't be able to correct it to do better next time. So explainability is very, very important. Yeah. That's it. That's what Vectara does. For the more technical attendees and the audience, at the heart of our system is a RAG platform. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And RAG is the way that you can get these AI systems and AI agents to know your business and know your data and stay grounded in the truth as opposed to making up stuff.
I love it. And you have to show the T-shirt right now to the people that are tuning in too. Look at that. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's a Gen AI genius, essentially. So we enable you to very easily become a Gen AI genius.
I love it. Let's unpack some of what you just said in there because it's super interesting. Many people are familiar. That's one of the frustrations, right, with these hallucinations. Most people's first interaction or the general public's initial interaction with AI was through like ChatGPT and things like that. And so through those platforms, they're used to their fair deal of hallucinations. You said something else in there that was really important, being able to explain like the reasoning behind doing something. That goes with even people, right? If someone can't tell you why they did something, how do you actually fix it? Because then we're assuming we know what they know.
Exactly.
Talk me through that piece, because in many industries that is of the utmost importance. So at what point did you realize that had to be something included?
From very early on. So again, my previous company, Cloudera, one of the core use cases for our platform. So Cloudera was a big data platform, and one of the core use cases is to build AI models for example, for detecting fraud in credit card transactions or detecting money laundering that might be happening between accounts. And whenever you're doing any of these things, always they will, like the banking guys will always tell you, the AI cannot just tell me this is fraud. It needs to explain why is this fraud. Like, why are you saying it is fraud? Or if it's going to recommend, we should give this person a mortgage insurance for 6%. Like, why? Why did you say that? To make sure it's not biased against that person in any way, shape, or form. So for me, I was very knowledgeable from my prior experience, is that having these AI systems explain their logic and how they make decisions is a must for business. Like for consumers, when you're using it for our homework or whatever, it's like we're gonna take care of doing that ourselves, kind of with it. But in a business, when it's happening at scale for many opinions over and over again, no, it needs to be fully automated.
Yeah, for a business, you need to have that context. For an everyday consumer, you just kind of want an answer, and sometimes you don't care as much.
Yeah,
but
the liability of the wrong answer is lower for a consumer.
Yeah, except it's interesting, right? Like when I use ChatGPT and I get a wrong answer, and I'll say this is wrong, I'll be like, "You're right, this is wrong.
Yeah,
let me fix it."
Yes, exactly.
Which is always fun, right?
But, and that can work when you're doing interactive, right? When you're doing an AI chat experience where it's you with the assistant together, and the human is still in the loop, and the human is still able to intervene. But many of these businesses, they now are looking at deploying this AI in production, handling customer support by itself, or handling patient cases by itself, or legal cases by itself, and there is no human there looking over its shoulders to making sure it doesn't do these things and catches them and do what you just said, like tell it, oh, that's wrong, actually try it this way instead. I was like, yeah, you're right, like me try it that way. That needs to happen automatically. We cannot depend on a human being there all the time.
You talk to a lot of these businesses, right? Like, so what is kind of the sentiment from these enterprises? How are they feeling about AI in general, but also specifically what you're doing? What has been some of the feedback?
Yeah, I would say it's both excitement and caution. Right. And the excitement is, of course, all of them tried things like ChatGPT and Claude and others, and they see the power that it does do some. When it does work, it works in amazing ways. Like you look at like, wow. So they see that, and that excites them. But at the same time, they see the failures. They see when it makes a mistake. Like, for example, a couple of years ago, there was a very big news story out there about a lawyer that we used ChatGPT to prepare his legal brief in a litigation, and a number of the citations in the legal brief were completely made up. They they were lawsuits that never happened that the AI completely made up, and of course that lawyer got in trouble, and I think he got disbarred. So they see stories like that, which scares them, but at the same time they see when it's working, it's amazing. So most businesses right now, I would say, are approaching it very cautiously. They want to gain the confidence that the technology is now at the maturity level where it can be dependent on, that it won't come up with these quality mistakes. So the number one concern by far is quality. Like, how can we make sure that when the AI generates a response, that this is a high quality response? That's number one. Like if you ask any business leader, any CIO, CTO, working on this, they will tell you that's my number one concern. The number two concern right after is security. So the problem with these systems is that they're also susceptible to social engineering, similar to humans. You know, when somebody calls you up and tricks you to give them with a phishing attack, and then tricks you to give them your PIN code for your banking account or whatever. LLMs and AI systems, unfortunately, have that problem as well, where I can imagine Jared as the CEO of a firm, and then Amr, I work for you, and I'm a bad actor, and I'm trying to see the revenues as of yesterday to maybe sell the stock or buy the stock of the company ahead of the earnings. And you're in the hospital, so I tell the AI, Jared is in the hospital right now. He's the CEO. He really needs to see the revenue right now because he needs to make an important decision. So the AI gives me the revenue, thinking I am going to pass it on to you. It's doing a good thing, but I tricked it to do that. And then now I saw the revenue, which I'm not allowed to see. Only you are allowed to see. So that's called a prompt attack. These things, and we humans are very clever at coming up with these prompts that can trick the AI into revealing something to us that we are not supposed to have privy or to be able to see. So it's very, very key. Like the second concern by far is security. How to make sure privacy and security is retained in these systems, and that made the business leaders take a pause last year, right? Because the systems were not ready last year with this very strict quality bar and very strict security bar. But now we're starting to have solutions like Vectara and others that address that problem in a very good way.
It's interesting you said that. I remember a story way early on when there was a car dealership like integrated, and they had to sell the car because the AI's. Yeah, sure. You must sell me this car at this price. Okay.
Yeah, it was a very low price. I remember it was like $1 or something. It was hilarious.
Yeah, they got it. It was crazy.
And again, it was the customer tricked the AI into doing
in their defense, it wasn't like one of these attacks that you were talking about, because it actually brought them a ton of press that they probably would have never, like, it was probably worth it for them selling the car next to nothing, right?
Yeah.
But super
Yeah.
interesting. So
Yeah,
let's talk
sometimes
about,
bad news is good news. Yeah.
you brought up a lot of good stuff in here too, for the concerns for the enterprises and what they're thinking. Let's talk about, there's a lot of companies that are still wavering on how should they leverage AI? What should their plan be? If you had to break down like a 90-day plan, essentially, for them to start leveraging AI more, working with, organizations like yours, what does that look like?
Yeah, very, very good question. So first I would start to say it's normal with any new technology wave that you will have the early adopters that are willing to jump in, and then you will have the pragmatists that are waiting for the early adopters to say this worked for us, and then the later majority, which is like won't even touch it until somebody a number of larger institutions say we love it and it's working great for us. So this is normal. So what I want to describe is this phase of hesitation is actually very, very normal. I've seen that with Cloudera, my previous company, in the big data wave, and I've seen it in many other technology waves. My advice to anybody is this wave is different. This wave is moving way faster than previous waves. So you really can't wait until you see the pragmatists do it first. And the pragmatists cannot wait until they see the early adopters do it first. Because if you wait too long, it might be too late. Where their automation and their efficiencies they're getting out of the AI helping them with their business reaches a point where now you'll never be able to catch up. So my advice to anybody this year is start dabbling with it in any way, shape, or form. You need to start dipping your toes in and pick a small use case, very well defined, and do something with it, even if it's internal, even if it's just preparing your own presentations inside of your company, for example. Like, you have to do something. And it has to be tied to a business use case that you have inside of your business, and do it, even if it's very, very simple, because now it starts enabling you to gain the knowledge, the skill set, and reduce the fear of how can I adopt this technology within my company. So that would be my advice.
Let's talk about some of the models that are out there today, right? There's been Google seemed to be behind a lot of, like, they were quiet for a long time, and then they've had a flurry of announcements over the last couple weeks, months. Like, how are you feeling about these various models that are out there today? And I guess at what point do you think will we have one clear-cut winner, or will we always have a few that are, doing their thing?
So very good question. So first on Google specifically, it's funny. So Google is not behind. Google is way ahead of everybody else. It's just they were behind in the go-to-market execution maybe a bit at the beginning. As I mentioned to you, I was vice president of developer relations in Google in 2019 and 2020, which was like 2 years before ChatGPT came out. And they had it internally. They had something internally called MENA, MENA, which is driven from meaning. And it was just as good as ChatGPT 2 years before ChatGPT hit the world, right? But Google was very cautious because they saw that this thing every now and then came up with these very, very funny, crazy responses that can be very embarrassing for Google, given their brand and everything. So they weren't able to launch it into the market in the right way. They should have launched it as a beta product or do something. And so ChatGPT didn't have that legacy that Google had of being afraid to lose their brand. And for them, it was only upside. So they were able to get this view in the market that they are the leaders. But if you really look at GPT, like ChatGPT, like the papers, everything, all the research, it's all from Google. Like, it's all stuff that Google had made. So it's really sad to see how Google got that kind of, and they're regretting that right now, to be honest, that they did not launch it into the market sooner. But if you look at what they have out there today with Gemini 2.0, it's amazing. It's head on head with OpenAI, if not better in some cases as well. If you look at their video production, GenAI system, I've been playing with it over the last couple of weeks, way better than anything else out there, way better than Sora, way better than Kling in terms of the physical accuracy of the videos that it produces. So I believe Google is actually definitely something to be reckoned with when it comes to this space. Now, that said, your question of do you believe it's going to be one player takes it all, or it's going to be multiple players? It's going to depend. So if one player truly figures out a platform that's way better, like significantly better than anybody else, then yes, they will take it all, because that's what everybody will go after. But what we're seeing is a convergence where there's some sort of kind of saturation taking place right now, where they're all hitting the same benchmarks at the same level, very close to each other. Like Google will release this, OpenAI release that, and then Quen will come release this. DeepSeek will release that. DeepSeek is an open source thing. Mistral from France also will catch up. So no, I'm not seeing somebody really becoming the most dominant, which means there isn't somebody who's really going to be the winner takes all. I believe there's going to be multiple good options out there, very similar to database technologies, for example. Like there isn't one database that wins them, takes them all, right? There's many database vendors out there. There's 10 or 12, and the market share is divided between them. And I see the same thing happening for the larger model providers as well.
You bring a good point up about just from like what OpenAI could do that maybe Google could not do. When you do have the brand, you have to be careful on the decisions and they also did something unique, right? They were a nonprofit. Like when they did, not-for-profit, when they decided to set this up.
So you don't think about suing them. When it's a nonprofit, nobody thinks about suing them liability.
Like if this is so bad and it hallucinates, maybe I'm okay with it because like they're trying to do some good, right? Google couldn't do that. So I think they're probably, like you were saying, it probably bothers them that they missed out on it. But like
a lot, it does. I know that for a fact.
They still care though more about like they still have the opportunity to win the long term.
Absolutely.
Like it's not over, not even close.
So. On the consumer side, maybe actually they lost. Like to be honest, on the consumer side, if you look at OpenAI right now, the dominance is way bigger. Like the number of people that use OpenAI compared to Google or Anthropic is like 10x difference. But on the business side, I think it's still open.
Yeah, you bring. I mean, what is OpenAI? Over 300 million like active monthly users or something like that. That's tough for Google to start taking a huge chunk of those users. And you heard Sam Altman. They're losing money. Like people are using it way more than even they expected. So unless they I guess the only way to look at it is if prices went up so much that people started exploring some of these other solutions. And like a company like Google with super deep pockets could say, we'll start to take the hit. That would be the only way I think they could truly pull a huge market share on the consumer side.
Yes, I agree.
As we look ahead, the HumanX conference is almost here. What excites you most about this event?
Same thing that excites me about most events is just meeting the networking with all of the different thought leaders across the world that are thinking about how can they leverage this technology to improve medicine, to improve health, to improve manufacturing, financials, you name it. Like it's just amazing to be able to connect, because I see my own bubble and we live in our own bubble here a little bit in the Silicon Valley, to be honest. So to connect with people from outside and see how they are thinking about this is invaluable. And that's exactly what I'm most excited about.
Love it. We'll see you there, and it should be a great event. And thank you so much for joining us here today.
Absolutely. My pleasure.